Kantemir, welcome. I was struck watching the film, the conflict between the bright colors and the post-war life. You know, can you tell us about why the colors are so bright in this film?
From the beginning, the film should be black and white, I thought, because this is the historical movie and about war. But while I was making researches, I found it I read a lot of personal diaries, and I found it that people tried to escape a gray reality with the help of colors, and it really stuck with me. And I said it to my DP Ksenia, and we just wanted to make our film a little bit unique because there's a lot of war movies in Soviet cinema and Russian cinema, and we wanted to make a film by young guys about the young peoples, for young peoples, because it was really important for us to share this experience with the persons who were the same age as us. Because Ksenia was 24, I was 27. I want to share this experience that we had from the book and from the books, actually, to share this experience with the persons with the same age as us. And this saturation is a little bit oversaturated for someone maybe, but for us there's a few reasons why the colors are so brightful. First of all, there's a row of colors. Red is like trauma and rust for us, and that's why Masha has a red hair and she has this red sweater and etc. And the green is like a hope, a new life, a possibility to give life. That's why it belongs to Iya. There's a color stagnation or color dynamic. It depends from the scene and from the characters. And about its saturation and colorfulness, it's like Iya. It's like a mixed of Andrei Platonov's characters. Andrei Platonov's Soviet writer, and because his is my favorite one, I tried to find his intonation in my film. And Andrei Platonov, it's like a philosophy of starting from the beginning, starting from the scratch. In his novels, characters creating the new society, the new world, the new life, the new morality. And Platonov recreated the Russian language. So I tried to stick with that idea and try to recreate the colors and the saturation, because people who returned from the war, they were on the edge. And that's why I wanted to color seems like on the edge, like extremely. And I know how much suffering will be in the film, so I wanted to look my characters decent, and that's why this kind of frames, lightness, and colors. Yeah, it's like escapist tool for us and for the characters.
I'm also curious about, I was fascinated by the symbolism of the wallpaper. In their apartment, there's layers and layers of wallpaper, and it's peeling. And there are times that we see exotic birds, and other times later we see Soviet newspapers. You know, can you tell us about that?
Well, everything was shot in the real spaces, so it's like when we're trying to get our papers on the wall, we found that there's a lot of old papers, so it's like a real papers, it's real spaces. So I found it really interesting because it's like it gives to your spaces a biography, a history of the spaces. So we wanted to. We just added the birds because the only animal boy knows is a bird, not because he saw it. It's just because it's on the wallpapers. So that's why he knows a bird. So we just added this kind of detail, and that's all.
I also noticed, and it was very striking, that there is no Stalin, there's no Lenin, there are no Russian symbols in the film. Was that intentional?
Yeah, it was intentional. Yeah, well, it might be sound a little bit cocky, but for me, cinema is a tool of immortality, and for my opinion, these people they don't deserve the immortality in my film. So that's why I didn't include them in the film, so because I don't like them.
You based, you were influenced by Nobel laureate's book, The Unwomanly Face of War, Svetlana Alexievich, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature. You know, can you tell us about using her as an influence?
Yeah, in 2015 I've read this book. I was at those time I was still studying in Alexander Sakharov's studio. So I read the book and I was just so mind blown. I was obsessed by this book because this book showed me that I knew nothing about the war, and especially about the females at the war. So I just knew that I wanted to make a film about this. It's like a book. It's full of interviews of females who fought at war. It's like a documentary book. So I was curious about how much sacrifices were made by females, and about the giant shift in every aspect of females. I mean, a woman can give a birth by biological way, and she can give life. And she went at the war. She has been surrounded by death during 4 or 5 years, and returned to the so-called peaceful life. And I really was curious how she managed to how Masha said, cure herself. And yeah, I got obsessed with this, and after that we made researches. Also read Daniil Granin's books. It's like a Siege, the Book of Siege of Leningrad. As I said, Andrei Platonov's novels. So, yeah.
And why, I mean, you mentioned Leningrad. Why did you pick Leningrad? And we see Leningrad after the siege and the importance of that.
Well, yeah, because for me it was important that the city is like one of the main characters, and I really wanted the city to be traumatized as a people who returned after the war. And especially nowadays, when you in St. Petersburg, you can kind of feel this atmosphere of the siege. Like, you can feel that the city has a history. And in atmosphere, in architecture, on the streets, it's like you can feel it. So we tried to catch it with the DP.
Mm-hmm. And which leads to my next question. We're used to seeing war films where you see the consequences of the war on the buildings, and instead you show us in the faces, in the eyes, in the way the bodies move of the actors, the consequences of the war. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just yeah, that was one of those main targets, to show consequences for the spaces, for the bodies, how they move in, because people were exhausted and were trying to find this intonation of voice, body languages. I don't know, it's just, I really love the intimacy of cinema, and I really want to feel audience, to feel closer to the characters. But on the other hand, I really want characters to have their own spaces. That's why, for example, when Iya comes to the doctor, you can see her from the back on the wide shot, because I want to respect her space and don't want to get across the border, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said, we made a lot of rehearsals, and we made a pre-shoot with the DP. It's like I don't do storyboards, and we just like shoot the whole film with the actresses and with DP. And while we were doing that, I understood the rhythm of the film, how we should shoot the faces and the bodies. So it's like it's a big amount of work.
You cast young, unknown actors with modern faces. Can you tell us about that choice of?
Well, it wasn't about famous or unfamous actors. It was about I tried to find a character. I tried to find a trauma inside them, because I do believe that trauma is the thing that makes us unique. It's not only physical trauma. It's more about, I think, inner trauma, mental trauma. So yeah, just trying to find it. And for example, the doctor, he's non-professional actor. The boy Sasha, he used to sell books in a bookstore. So we were searching through this with the help of social media's personal connection and something like that.
Yeah. When I introduced the film to the audience, I mentioned that this is a historic period, but it is about the world today. And can you tell us about that?
Well, it's kind of it's kind of hard question, because for me, when I'm making the film, I really don't think about nowadays if we're talking about historical movie, because my first one was about 1998 in North Caucasus, my homeland. Yeah, because I mean the work on the film, it's like it's 3, 4, 5 years of your life, and the things nowadays it could change so fast. And if you want to make a film, I don't know, political film or something like that, you can just miss the things. So I think of course there's an echo of nowadays in this film, but how to say? I mean, freedom from the meaning allows you to create your own meaning. So I don't really like to be some kind of dictator and to tell the audience how you should feel, or this scene about what, or this film is about this, because everyone understands film differently because of their experience, ethical, religion, and things like that. And I think this is the beauty of the cinema, too, the polyphony of understanding of the film. So I don't.
No. I totally. Hey, I respect that and I value it. And one of the things I admire about your film is that even color itself becomes, you interpret what the color red means and what the green means, and even, for example, the hospital. Yeah. I love that the hospital becomes, to me, this metaphor. It could be of insanity, it could be of a country, of moral values, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, I think you and in London, someone from the audience told me, is it what the Masha told Ian, the founder, that the future child will have her nose. Does it mean that the child will be traumatized as Masha because she has her nose bleeding all the time during the film? Mm-hmm. And I found it really interesting, because I didn't mention it while I was making the film, but it was interesting for me how the audience understand the film, and how they trying to find something new, something that I didn't include in it. And I think it's normal, and this is the beauty of it.
Can you tell us about some of the production design, for example, like the costume designs? Although they're period pieces, there is a feel about them that feel contemporary. Can you tell us about that choice?
Well, yeah, it was a tricky, hard work, because we tried to find some references in photo archives, in personal photos of those times. But yeah, there's the difficulties. They're all black and white, and we're trying to recreate. We're trying to give a respect to reality of those times. But on the other hand, we want our film looks modern, as I said, a little bit unique. So yeah, I just tried to mix the authentic and nowadays.
And the hospital where you shoot, was that a real hospital?
Yeah, there. Every space except the bath scene. Every space is real.
How much did you have to retrofit them? Did you have to restore them to the way they used to look?
Yeah, sure, yeah, because they are abandoned buildings. Abandoned. Yeah.
Oh, so the hospital is it was empty.
Yeah, it is.
But it used to be a real hospital.
Yeah. At the wartime, yeah.
And then the train sequence, the streetcar. How is that?
We took it from the museum. So we took it from the museum and made it look authentic, just like scratches, dust, something like that. It was difficult because they don't want us to do that, but yeah, we managed it.
And one of the things I admire about you, Kantemir, is that you have a very contemporary vision in cinema, but you are very knowledgeable, obviously, about classical cinema. And can you tell us about that?
Well, it's because of my teacher, Alexander Sokurov. It's all his fault.
Alexander Sokurov, he worked with Alexander Sokurov, learned from Alexander Sokurov, and he's one of the great giants of Russian cinema.
Yeah, like a Russian art is like, for me, is a masterpiece. Yeah, I just we had a big course of history of cinema, and before the Alexander Sokurov studio, I used to watch a lot of bad movies, and while I was studying, and after that, I just know they showed me a lot of films, and they showed me that cinema, it's not only the entertainment, it's like of a visual code of meanings, and the way the camera movement, the lights, the editing, everything should be meaningful in the film. So yeah, but Sokurov always say to us, to his students, that directors should read more books and watch less movies.
Your characters are in shock. The whole country, Leningrad, is in shock, and the audience, as they watch your film, is in shock. Was that something that you were aware of when you were making the film? How, at times difficult it is to watch.
Well, yeah, of course, and we tried to include some humor in the film, for like arrhythmia of emotions, but I mean, it's a wartime movie. It's not supposed to be easy to watch, because even the pace of the film, I tried to. People were exhausted, and that's why the pace of the film it's for someone it's slow, because. Even the silence between words, it's different than nowadays because of the exhaustions of the people, and yeah, we just want to do better for the story.
Mm-hmm. And when I introduced the film, I mentioned how well received the film has been, at Cannes, also at Telluride Film Festival, and wonderful reviews in the West. How has it been received in Russia?
Someone liked the film, someone didn't like the film. It wasn't a huge controversial. I think so. I don't know. That's when I was at the screenings. I was really happy about the young people who came at the screening because it was a major part of it. But I also was happy about about the about the elders, because I was afraid that they won't accept the film, but they did accept it. And yeah, I was happy about that. But I don't know. I think there's a 50-50, or maybe much more, or maybe less.
Has the veterans of the war that are still alive, that have seen the film, what has their reaction been?
To be honest, I don't know. There was an oldest on the screen, but I don't know, was they on the front or not. So to be honest, I'm not sure that the veterans are going on the screenings right now.
And the Russian government, what has been their reaction to the film? I'm monitoring these themes. I just don't know. But as I said, there wasn't some kind of big controversial about this film. But we don't have a government finance, so to be honest, I don't know. I'm not sure that we would get this financing. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but it's the official Russian entry to the Academy Awards, so they must have approved it in some way.
Maybe I don't know how the things is working in the Academy, in this Russian submission. Who submit the film for the Oscars? I don't know.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much. Thank you.